Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Chairman Rangel, you talked about the patriotism, the bravery of our chairman, and we all acknowledge that in the Senate. We recognize him, as does everyone in America. But it's nice of you to say that, because you were both heroes in your own right, fighting for our country. You just did it in a better, different part of the world. You did it in Korea. He was hurt very badly in Italy. So we appreciate your mentioning that, but we recognize, those of us who know you, that you also wore a uniform of our country, carried a gun in doing so. Everyone here should look around. This is the first open conference we have had in 15 years, long time. I can remember my first tour in the Senate. I was so excited. I came to a conference of the Environment and Public Works Committee. It was held on a Saturday. That was a wonderful experience for me. I have 58 Democrats now in the Senate. 27 of them have never seen a conference. They didn't know that they existed. This is the first one we have had. Yes, I appreciate you, my Republican colleagues, complaining about conferences. But you did all yours in secret. We haven't done that. This is an open conference where we never had this opportunity. Now, I want to say also about members having been included. We had a 30-member United States Senate consisting of Republicans, Democrats who spent a lot of time on this. We had our Finance Committee, almost 25% of our Senate involved in marking this bill up. We spent a lot of time on the Senate floor. Approximately 50 amendments were offered. Actually, 200 were offered, but we debated many of them. We had more than 24 votes. Some of the debate took a long time. I guess partisanship is in the eye of the beholder. We certainly have tried in the time that this Congress has been in existence to be as bipartisan as we could, to work together. And you know, guys, and we're all guys here in the conferees, it's working. We've passed major legislation in just a little bit of time. Employment discrimination for women is now the law signed by the President. Children's health insurance program, law signed by the President. And it's reflected in the way the American people look at us. A year ago, our approval rating as Senate Democrats, as congressional Democrats, was 12%. A poll yesterday is 48%, because we're producing things. They can see us trying to do the right thing for the American people. Now, I don't usually talk very loud, and I'm not going to tonight. But no one needs to lecture me or us on deficits, because you invented them. Republicans invented deficits. During the 8 years that President Bush was president, the deficit went up $5 trillion. $5 trillion. When he took office, there was a $7 trillion surplus over 10 years. Don't lecture us on this being deficit spending. The numbers that Mr. Camp set forth, of course, are all based on what has transpired previously. Of course, this is a bill that is going to have emergency spending. That's what you do. When you're in a hole like this, there's no other place to go. No one else has money. Now, I would also say to my friends that this creates 3.5 million jobs. 90% of the jobs are in the private sector that are created, not in the public sector. So I am very grateful for the Speaker. She's not here, but her presence is here, as we all know. She has worked very hard on this legislation. She does everything. She is, for me, a terrific partner, and there isn't enough good I can say about Nancy Pelosi. When the history books are written about this country, they'll, of course, talk about she's the first female speaker, but they'll also talk about her being one of the best speakers we've ever had. Now, I would be not a grateful person if I didn't mention the reason that we're here today is 3 very brave people. 2 senators from Maine, and a senator from Pennsylvania. They're the reason we're here. There was an effort in the Senate to stiff everybody and have, as happened in the House, not a single Republican vote for this legislation as badly as is needed. There, you can't find an economist in America that doesn't think we need to spend money to get out of this hole. I will always be remembering Collins, Snow, and Specter for allowing us to do this. They have taken tremendous grief from their colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle. I saw some of the direct statements made to one of those senators. So I can't leave here without telling them I appreciate. Now, did I agree with what some of the things they made us swallow? No, I didn't. But that's the way the Senate works, as Senator Grassley has indicated. A lot of times the minority has a lot of power in the Senate. That's the way the Founding Fathers set it up. They wanted to make sure that minorities were protected. Not racial minorities, that's part of the deal, of course. Not religious minorities, that's the deal, of course. But minorities, numbers of people. The minorities in the Senate, whether it's a Democratic minority or Republican minority, in the Senate has a lot of power and control. And I have, as my friend Chairman Obey knows, he and I have arm wrestled lots of times about the grief caused by the Senate. But that's the way the Founding Fathers set up. I didn't have anything to do with that. But we folks, and I appreciate your advocacy. I say that to Mr. Camp. I say that to my friend Jerry, who is the neighboring county from Clark County, where his daughter still lives there, does she? Yeah. And of course, and I say this without any reservation or hesitation, one of my friends is Thad Cochran. He is a wonderful human being. And even though we disagree on occasion, we are never disagreeable. And Chuck Grassley and Max Baucus have done wonderful work for our country on that Finance Committee. So I know that there are some feelings that, shouldn't we do more? Couldn't we have done more? Should we take more time? The time to act is now. I have not said anything about my 2 chairs who are my friends. Chairman Baucus has a terribly difficult job. Any difficult problem we have in our country comes to the Finance and Ways and Means Committee. Everyone knows my long-standing affection, respect for Senator Inouye. He's a wonderful man. I will always consider him a friend without any question, a forever friend. But we're at this hour of crisis for our great country. And we have given the American people reason to be confident that their government is up to the challenge of taking the bold and responsible action to begin the road from recession to recovery. And that is in the President Obama economic recovery plan. From the outset of this process, President Obama urged us to set aside partisanship and together pursue common ground. People have said, well, he's wasting his time. Why bother talking to Republicans? It has been extremely important. It's important for the picture the American people see that we're trying to work together, and we are. And that example is set by President Obama. So I'm confident that our mutual goals for economic recovery are far greater than any small differences we may have. President Obama set 3 goals for his economic recovery plan. Saving, creating American jobs. This bill does 3.5 million of those. Providing tax relief to working families. This is giving, as Chairman Rangel mentioned, 95% of the American people will get a tax break. And finally, laying the groundwork for long-term prosperity by investing in our schools, roads, workforce, and other things. This legislation made its way through the House and the Senate. Changes were made. Amendments from both sides were adopted. Some were dropped, and we've gone through this conference process. Some initiatives were removed, others were added. But those 3 critical goals, jobs, tax relief, and long-term investment, have endured. All of us, Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, are working toward the same goal. We all want to see our states that we represent, our districts that we represent, recover, and recover as quickly as possible. We want to put people back to work. The American people understand that the legislation we send to the President's desk will not solve the crisis tomorrow. We cannot say for certain when the crisis will end. But we do know for certain that this is when the recovery must begin, the minute this bill is on the President's desk for signature. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank